Hey, how's it going? I thought I'd let you have a chance to see some signs. Want to see closer? Here. I'm on a cord, so I can't go too close. Okay. Let us bow. Let us flop and then let us begin. Okay, so I wanted to talk about today a little bit. I mean, not that today was some sort of special, like, holiday or something like that. Just that my personal day was, it was unusual. Nothing startling or scary. It just went differently than the days that came before. And sometimes, either because I'm hurt or because I don't want to incur hurt, I will take a day off from going out and riding my little tricycle machine. So I wasn't feeling sore or anything, but it's just never a bad idea to just give it a rest for a few days, because I basically am on that thing 7 days a week, sometimes more than once a day, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's the flaw is in my injury in my shoulder, so pardon me. The other thing that was kind of weird was, well, I didn't sleep very well at all last night. My cat, I don't know what was going on with him. He woke me up like every 20 minutes, it felt like. And I went to bed really late. It was definitely in the wee hours, so it just the combination of like things that happened there when I was trying to go to sleep, it just was not conducive to sleep. So I woke up this morning, and then what did I even do? I know I got up and like fed my cat, and I think I did some housework. I don't really remember, because not too long after that I sat down and pretty much just went back to sleep. And then I slept well. Like, finally. I guess it's been like a week. I mean, I've talked about it, the super turbulent energies, along with whatever else I got going on, or whatever else. It's just been churny. Everything's been a swirl, a stir. And it's really hard to clear your throat. So, yeah, I didn't work today, which was fine. I mean, sorry. Why am I apologizing to my hair? I almost got caught in it, though. So, the other thing is that I knew this was coming. It's been happening for a while. It just seems like it's getting more and more intense. And it's just that I would be sitting there throughout the day, and it's still happening. Like, it's happening right now. I would just feel like waves of happiness and love and like connection, to I don't know what, because I'm sitting here by myself, and like it's just happening right now and making my skin bumpy. But it feels good. I don't feel like I'm being coerced or anything, and I know generally where it's coming from and why. But here's the interesting thing. I think 2 days ago, I was watching on YouTube a report about like the sunspots, and and the person talking about them was just kind of exclaiming that there was one that was so massive, and it seems like it doesn't get discussed as much as it used to, but depending on the the strength of those things, the sun flares and the sunspots, they can really screw with our electronics. I think everybody kind of is aware of that, but we are also, we're like a battery. We got water in us. We got all these minerals like copper and iron. We got electricity. We got magnetism. You think those changes are not affecting us? Like, same thing with full moons and that. Some people will say that it has no effect on human behavior, and then police officers and emergency room doctors will tell you otherwise. And then also just people. Like, I know I can feel a full moon come in like 2 days before it arrives, so don't tell me it doesn't affect us. So the thing is, on the news, they always talk about it like, oh my God, it's so scary, it's harmful, you're gonna grow a third eye or something like that, which actually wouldn't be a bad thing. Yeah. But truth is they can overwhelm our bodies, and I guess in some cases, like depending on the constitution of the person in question, it could harm you. It could like affect you adversely, but generally, on the whole, that's not what's happening. Like, I don't know if it's news made to scare us because it's not really true, or they're just don't understand and have it like kind of wrong. And why do I think I'm right? Well, not because I went to school to learn anything about the subject, but because I hear channels from Spirit talking about what they are and what they're doing, specifically what they're doing to us. So, I don't know, maybe collect all the information and then make a decision yourself based on what you yourself think, and not what everybody else is like, this is the thing, blah, like, you can participate in your decision making. So that's like one thing about the sunspots and that. But actually what I'm really talking about is CME, which is coronal mass ejection. And so same thing, the first thing I was talking about, just like, well, actually same family, because earlier today I was watching, I think last week's episode of Strange New Worlds, the Star Trek with Anson Mount, the delicious man from, well, only place I'd seen him before was Hell on Wheels, but like I always say, I'm sure he was in a bunch of other stuff before they stuck him on the front of a show at the top lead position. But anyway, he is now Captain Chris Pike in, if you know Star Trek lore. He's in like the pre-TOS era. He's like the foretelling of the Star Trek story, or he's like the whole thing. Christopher Pike is part of the legend of Star Trek. Anyway, on the ship, on the what the heck is that? The name of that ship? Is it the Enterprise? I think it's the Enterprise, but don't quote me. I could be wrong. Like, I'm kind of doubting myself because I might be wrong. But anyway, Christopher Pike, played by Anson Mount, is captain of the Enterprise. And they go into an area of space, and it's sort of a continuing story. And like the previous week, they were in the area, and some kind of effect made everybody start, well, it was like an effect and some like XTs too, like extraterrestrials that were affecting the people. And I had a hard time getting through that episode, but I did get through it, and I'm glad I did, because the premise was that for some reason the entity in space that was affecting them, along with the space itself, plucked out of their brains musicals and songs, for, like if they were having to follow the outline, or that's not the right word, but the script, I guess, of what a musical would do if it were a film, a movie, either one. But there are like certain there's a pattern to a musical, you can expect, well, any story in a movie, it's going to have a beginning, middle, and end. It's going to have protagonists and antagonists, blah, 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 all this sort of like movie knowledge stuff. But I mean, all you need to do to know this stuff is watch movies for 10 years of your life and pay attention, and you can come to the same conclusions yourself. You don't have to like go out and get educated about it. It's right there in your face, and it is not rocket science. But in the show, after they figured out that they could make the singing stop because they were like breaking into song, and Lon was like, it's a security risk because once they start singing, they start spilling their guts and like telling all kinds of stuff that they dang sure wouldn't if they weren't in song space or whatever the heck that was. Structure, that's it. It had to follow the structure of a movie musical. And so once they figured that out, and they figured out that they had to stop singing because they were revealing personal stuff that they hadn't even revealed to their other person that they were singing about, and in front of the crew, and it was just like everybody just bare, but like, wait, I didn't mean to do that. So they figured it out and they fixed it. But they're in, I think, the same area of space in this next episode of Hegemony, and more chaos and unexpected problems, and then like a fight with a species that well, you know what, they really have to like sew that up for me, because in Star Trek TOS there was like one episode where I remember Kirk, James Kirk, fighting this lizard guy that looked like a Sleestak from Land of the Lost, but I guess it was a Gorn. And I don't remember ever seeing Gorn or hearing another word about Gorn until this Paramount Plus era of the Star Trek stuff. There's a word for genre. That's not the right word, but close enough. You know what I'm trying to say, I hope. But in this next episode, Hegemony, the problem they run into, aside from like the XT problem, is that there are these coronal masses out there that I think aggravate the XT, which are the Gorn, which who I was just talking about. They were like in the one episode that I can remember, and my God, I've been watching them since like 1968. As soon as I was old enough to understand, I'm pretty sure there was just one appearance of the Gorn in that TOS. And I just don't remember the name coming up after, not even like as a academic afterthought or whatever, like an editorial whatever. Like they were just like the one-hit slow fighting wonder. Those Captain Kirk double fist knock you out whatever's like the worst leverage for a punch or a strike. They better be prone and on the ground. That's all I can say for that particular move to make sense. I'm not a fight person either. I don't know, but it just looks silly. Anyway, so yeah, sunspots and coronal masses in the show the next day or a couple of days later, which would be today. And then also today, there's a young man that is a science teacher in Canada, I believe, and he's Russian, so he's an immigrant. But he does science talks, and he talks about papers, scientific papers and he discusses them in great detail. And I mean, if you start paying like Patreon or whatever his pay platform is, you can like take classes and like really learn some intense stuff, and it's high math, and never did I enter a classroom that covered any of the stuff that he talks about, but it's interesting. And today he was talking about CMEs, and what I was originally talking about in the beginning, where I was saying that the news reports them as, oh my God, they're harmful, run. Like, where are you gonna go? Yeah, a parking garage, I guess, but can it just like leak in? Like, aren't all those rays permeable? Like, they don't care about your building or your underground. I mean, I think you'd have to go pretty far in for it to make a difference. Far in under the earth, I should clarify. But anyway, so the young man's name is Anton Petrov, the boy. Oh my goodness. Who do I think I am? Somebody's grandmother? That'd be impossible. But anyway, I don't know why the CMEs were like making such an impression today, but I get that. Like, every day something has to be a repeating theme. And eventually I figure out, like, why is that repeating over and over? It must mean something. So, oh shoot, how long have I been going? Ooh, too long. Okay. Well, not too long. Whatever. So I pulled from the Shaman's Dream Oracle deck, number 55. The farther gate, bold step forward. Well, in keeping with that theming business, and I think it's just these cards, like, they're really kind of, to my mind, ascension centric. But I had pulled this card recently, and I got it. I talked about this yesterday. They look so different, like, any given time that I pull them, the cards. So last time I pulled this, it was all about sailing home from 7 years at sea, like a mythological character. That was just part of like what I was talking about the last time I pulled this. But this time, I don't see it as like water or nautical or anywhere a boat could drive without a land vehicle, because now it just looks like a paved road and you're entering the gated. I'm gonna say that this looks like one family's home, like it's not like a gated community, but I could be wrong. Reason why I say that I don't think it's a gated community situation is because back in the mists there, you can see this huge mansion, like royalty style. And that type of individual, I mean, I know that the royal family in England, I believe that they have, well, I know they have a number of properties, but I think some of them are like a castle and then like outbuildings or smaller tenant buildings. I'm not sure what you would call them, but it would just be on this, not just like a plot of land, it would be like a whole countryside of land, and they'd have maybe 2 or 3 of these royal housing complexes. So they're not going to be right on top of each other, but on the giant piece of land, which is going to be private, I would assume, because it is the royal family land. I wonder how that works, though, because like the royal family owns England? I don't think that's how it works. I'm not sure. I think the relationship between the people and the royalty has evolved over the centuries. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about stuff I don't know about. But anyway, one more sip. So you're making it back home after, I don't know why, but I'm gonna say a tiring journey, and you just are glad to get back home, and you're not even bothered by the lack of light and the lack of golden light, like whatever this dimness, this fog is, it's messing up the light. It's diffusing it to pieces. Diffusing it to pieces, to particles. And you know, a lot of times something that looks like this might be associated with gloom and doom, but it doesn't look, it's like only over here around the house does it really look depressing and maybe even a little scary. But yeah, it's like it's just a full-on paved road, and there's even like a dark area like on the street outside of wherever you live that is underneath the vehicles, in between the wheels. It's like it doesn't get driven on that much, so it's like darker. It tends to be a little bit concave, like a little bit of a bread loaf situation happening next to the wheel ruts in the road. And you're entering this, I mean, you've got a gate obviously, but you're entering this protected area, so it does feel very clannish and very exclusive, and but not bad. Like maybe when you left things weren't great, but the prodigal child has returned, and they have something to tell the people in the house. I don't know why. I guess, sure, they have something to tell the people in the house. Can I talk about the number at the top there, which is 55? 5 is 10. 10 is 1. That's what it breaks down to numerologically. Do I want to read this? Well, okay. The farther gate, the next experience. Legacy, evolving, bold step forward. That's what made me start to say that these cards are really ascension-centric, because every time almost that I pull some cards, there is, you know, talk of or something about going from where you are to the next place that you're gonna be, or the next person you're gonna be. Like you know, like a Madonna or a David Bowie will just go through a whole exterior makeover, and that's what we the public get to see. Whatever's happening on the inside, that's that's private. That's behind the gate and in the mist and in the house that you can barely see, but you know it's there. It's very secure and private and exclusive. Did I already say all of those words? Yes, every single one. Really pounded that point home. Okay. But yeah, it's always like a next new step. So even returning home is like a new step on your ongoing journey. Because, I mean, unless you started walking in reverse, you can return. But I'm talking about, they're not backing into the driveway. They're driving forward. So it's always about the next, you know, like level that you're making your way to, or that you've reached, or you're about to surmount. It's always an ongoing progression. When the farther gate card shows up, it is a clear call to lift your eyes to the horizon and to begin to walk to your goodness gracious, like I got a mouthful of, well, I do have a mouthful of stuff. I'm not supposed to interfere with my speech though. Let me try that again. When the farther gate card shows up, it is a clear call to lift your eyes to the horizon and begin to walk toward your future. So horizon, that is like some bleed through from yesterday. There was definitely, well, on video it was like this. It was like a I don't know that it was on a card actually, but I'm pretty sure it came up when I was talking about the horizon, because that's another one of those ascension-centric things. Over the horizon there's going to be something new and unknown because you cannot see over the horizon. You have to go all the way up to the edge of it and look over, like no cheating from a long distance. You actually have to work your way up to it. But here, again, with the horizon, kind of not too far off the subject that I had been saying. Treat yourself. Trust your forward movement will lead you to a new destination you have already set for yourself, but perhaps forgotten or neglected because of your everyday busyness. Not business, busyness. Active, running around, doing stuff, busy. The farther gate comes to tell you that an ending is at hand, which always leads to another beginning. You see where I'm getting? You see where I'm headed with this stuff? Like it just, and this is good. It just keeps rolling forward in progression. So that's fine. I like the synchron or the continuity of it. Let it. So you're gonna. The farther gate comes to tell you that an ending is at hand and that you can leave the old behind. Let it peel away like an old skin you shed. Do not hesitate. Cross the threshold boldly, and you will be rewarded. Boy, that's for sure. Don't be doubting yourself when new stuff is happening, or doubting the situation, or doubting like any of it. Like. It's just like fear. It's an impediment. So, and this is something that I'm generally like an upbeat, positive person, but I can get like down and a little negative. But it is possible to be relentlessly upbeat. I mean, I feel like the more you are, the more you become. And so in a way, it like deflects the negativity from being able to enter your consciousness, your zone. Like if you're just relentlessly positive, then it's basically got no way in. I mean, if it's darkness and negativity and the positivity is all about bright light, then it's gonna have a hard time trying to sneak up to it. And it's like it's a boon for the person that can maintain a positive attitude. Like it only attracts success and those things that you want or desire, and especially if you've put a lot of intention toward acquiring it or doing what you need to do, like saving, or you have a goal, so you do those things that'll get you there, and that is also positive. So it keeps going, and like a snowball going downhill. It just keeps adding rather than subtracting from what you're putting into your effort, as opposed to filling it with a bunch of complaints and negativity and just like all of the things that work against you. And I've seen it. Like I know it can happen. Like I have thought, like there's no way someone can just be positive all the time. Well, I mean, why can't you try though? Why can't you get as close as possible to that goal? There's nothing that says you can't do that, right? And I've seen it in action, like so many people, that if you're going to have a single-minded focus, at least just having it on positivity is probably one of the best ways to go, as opposed to single-minded focus on scoring heroin or something like that, You know what I mean? Like the benefits are just going to come out on more the not seeking the heroin side. Because the attendant with the seeking the heroin is a bunch of other like depressing stuff. So if you're staying positive, just like with the darkness, there's no way in. So that's today's interpretation of the farther gate. You're coming home, but you've been somewhere and you're tired, but you've assimilated all this stuff, and gaining knowledge and wisdom is always a positive thing. So now you're back home, and you're gonna, with relief, drive up to your home in the mists, and then you're gonna go inside and let the servants unpack and sit down and have some nice hot tea and with milk and sugar, and get under a nice blanket and get warm, because this place looks cold and drafty, with especially the cold looking mists outside. But you know, you're gonna be able to go home and be at peace, because you are, see how big that house is? Like, what if there's only like 6 people, and then the staff that live there, like 6 family members, and then the whole rest of the place is empty, like a gigantic house, manor. Anyway, you get the idea. You went out, you've been through some stuff, you could come back home, you can relax, and you can let your downloads sort of sink in. So I also pulled a card from the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit deck. Ooh, wow, I got it out without screwing it up this time. And from that deck I pulled Oyster. So I think we all know about oysters and pearls. Well, and you see there's like light spires coming out from the oyster shell, and I'm just gonna say it's probably the oyster in there, developing from whatever little grain of sand or whatever irritant got in there, and is now getting this hard shell put around it that the oyster creates, because then it can reject whatever the foreign thing was, or by putting layers of the pearl around it, which is like a calcium based substance, but other stuff that makes it opalescent. It's a gemstone, and it's worth money, and they do have like a light pearls do, and I'm thinking of the white ones because they don't just come in one color, but they do look as if they have their own source of light from within. But I was also thinking about the fact that a lot of people consume the oyster meat, and the shells, like in Louisiana or New Orleans, which is the place in Louisiana that I've been to twice, where we were. This was in the 1970s, like mid 1970s, and where we were, the roads were all like broken shells, crushed shells, and it was horrible. Like, you go outside as a kid, it's hot as hell and humid, and you're barefoot, but you're not from where the ground is made of broken up pieces of shell that are kind of sharp, and I was unused to it. Hot ass sidewalk you could fry an egg on, that I knew. This other thing, I spent the whole time we were there, I think it was 2 weeks, every time we got in a car I was just expecting to get a flat. And you know, I was old enough to know that, like, this stuff is everywhere, so everyone's driving on it. People must not be getting a flat, so I still couldn't get it out of my head. So the other thing about the oysters is, if you consume the meat, there's supposed to be an aphrodisiac, and, well, we don't really need it, or I don't really need one. Like, I feel like, I feel like aphrodisiac, I feel like it's on the air, and I don't know that aphrodisiac's a good idea, because not everyone is friendly to other people's unsolicited friendliness, which might happen if there's just like mass consumption of aphrodisiac. So there's more than one kind of love. It doesn't have to be romantic sexual love. There can also be hugging and things with this other non-sexual, non-romantic love, like with parents and children, or friends, or relatives. Uh, I think it's just part of the loving sort of symphony of emotions and gestures that we do. And oysters are so weird looking. Like, if you've seen the smoked one, I'm sorry to say, it looks like it belongs in female genitalia somewhere, human female. You can get the raw ones, and that looks like it flew out of somebody's nose. But if you've ever had them, they don't have that consistency at all, and they do taste like the ocean. If they're nice and fresh, they're like actually, they taste better than the ocean water, because they taste like cleaner water. And then if you cook them, they have a whole other weird thing. Like, then they turn into this sort of, you could almost like pass it off as like poached chicken or something, but it's whiter than that. It doesn't have that chicken pinkness. It cooks white, except for the green part, which I think is the digestive tract. And that looks like some spinach. It always has. And then when you taste it, all of that goes away, because there's nothing like that flavor. And it's the same beast that, like, uncooked, it's basically water. Like, you can see, I think, what ends up being the green spinach intestinal tract, which when it's raw, it's sort of, I think, grayish pink, but, almost see-through. So it does look like mucus with like some little trails of whatever stuff in it, but it's not that. Isn't it weird that so many things can look like snot and not be snot? Why? Why do we need so many? What is the purpose? Like, can someone explain that to me? I guess it just has a useful consistency or something, because it's kind of lubey and watery, lube like grease or lubrication. And boy, am I getting off track. But that's interesting. Like, the oyster can be just in its own state, like in a couple of different states, and its way of expelling foreign matter is to wrap it in something completely beautiful that once it gets, sorry, oyster, pried out of your gut, then it's like a precious gem. So look at this thing. They're not, this is like, is that like not, would you think something as beautiful as a pearl would come out of that weird looking thing? I shouldn't be so judgmental. I probably look extremely odd to an oyster. So, wow, for me, this is like, this was like going out, getting some information, and coming back tired. And I guess, part of getting the information is going through some stuff, and that is taxing. So, but yeah, going out, getting some information, coming home with your information and downloading it, and then you have this individual that, oh, that was yesterday. Well, yesterday I had a card that had crystal wands in it, like quartz crystals, which crystals, like a quartz crystal, can be used to store, I believe, digital information. And so I was thinking of that when I was going to say, this here is a storage unit for information. Like, look at all of these lines. It's reminding me of tree rings, and I'm sure that's exactly what it's like, because if it starts out as this little tiny thing and then progressively grows, where's my thing? Progressively grows, like year after year after year, that is a bunch of information held within those layers, I bet. So, and then it has a clamshell that opens up, which could be a secure storage unit, relatively secure, depends on who and what is going in it with what to get it open, and why, I guess, too. But I refer to this as an individual. It's almost like this is the download that this person got. Like, this is the packet, and this is just the representation so that we can look at it and see it for what it is, this sort of camouflaged computer storage unit. Because you might look at this and think, something to eat, or pearls, or something to pave the street with, but you might not think of it as a storage unit unless you could open your mind and imagine it doing things that it's not intended to do. That's kind of how imagination works. Okay, did I get that out clear? Getting the information, storing it, holding on to it, eventually assimilating it. That is what I wanted to say. Thank you and good night. Stop.